That sounds so good, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Are these like special headphones or what?
They're supposed to be like surround.
Yeah.
Can you? Is that how you feel it?
It's super clear.
Yeah.
Like shit.
Yeah, dude, we got this whole setup for like it was like on a sale, and the guy was telling me that the reason it was on sale was because Guitar Center ordered a shitload.
Oh, seriously? we got it at the Pulga. We got the Pulga de Alamo.
Oh man,
Bronco 956. We bought them from him. All right, so what time is it? 12. Oh, did we put it on the chat? Hey, about to start.
no sir, not yet. Is it the same link?
Yeah. Are we on? Or not yet?
I don't know. Yes. Ooh, we're live, baby.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Have we been live? Oh, everybody's hearing me make weird noises?
We're live, baby. Are we live? Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's with the echo?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So how was it?
So we went to watch the movie yesterday, Air, and it was so good, man.
Was it?
Yeah. Like I was telling you earlier, I don't know if we were live earlier, but it's like my third time watching it. I'm kind of crazy about that. It just for me it was real nostalgic because like, and I remember the Jordans, and I remember wanting a pair, like I don't know, maybe I was in fourth grade, fifth grade.
Were they as expensive then as they are now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going to, so the ones that I wanted were the AJ3s.
AJ3. What the heck is that?
It just like, okay, so AJ1s, right? The first Air Jordans that came out.
Okay. I don't know nothing about Air Jordans. Disclaimer. I don't know anything about Air Jordans.
Oh my God. Like, I mean, Michael Jordan was the best.
So what was the reason for them wanting to create this shoe that they were trying to, was there a particular reason? Did Nike need that? Did they need a new product?
Nike was, as a matter of fact, they talk about those numbers on the, and set, Nike at that time, like dominated the running market. But, when it came to basketball, they were trying to like gain market share. And, they put those numbers up during the movie. They had 17% market share, and Adidas obviously had a lot more, and so did Converse.
Okay,
Converse had Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and so Nike was like falling behind on the whole basketball market.
Oh wow!
And so they had to get somebody good, and bro, you got to go watch the movie. Super good.
How did they come up with how did they say, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and get Michael? How was that? I'm gonna see the movie. I need to see that movie.
You got to see the movie. I mean, I don't remember the guy's name, but in the movie, the character that Matt Damon plays, he was in charge of getting the talent. That was his job.
And was there someone that was kind of like opposite of Michael that they were looking at? Like, was there someone?
There is nobody. There is no opposite of Michael. Like, truly.
Did they get him right out of college?
Yes.
They got him right out of college?
Yeah. Before he signed with anybody else. And, like, kudos to the guy that, I don't remember the guy's name, but Matt Damon's character, like, dude, he had to land this guy. He had to land Michael Jordan. He knew that he was going to be the greatest player of all time.
He felt it.
He felt it. Yeah, he felt it. And the movie like talks about that. But yeah, man. It's just a cool movie, bro. Like at that time, Nike was still a big company. but not as big as they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they man, like I think just the Air Jordans alone, they generate like $4 billion in sales every year.
Well, there's shoes for Air
Crazy.
Jordans that go for we were actually looking at last night. There's shoes at like $15,000, man.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I mean, dude, you got to watch the movie. It has everything in it, right? If you're a business owner and like you've had this dream of growing your business and or just like Isaac's here.
Look at
Yeah,
this.
we'll talk about it here in a little bit. What's up, guys?
What's up? How you doing? Good morning.
What's up, bro? All right. Good to see you guys. What's up, bro? All right, come on in, man. Sit down. We're already live, by the way.
Oh, you're live. Okay.
Yeah. So, grab a seat. Welcome to our podcast.
Oh, sweet.
Once you put on the headphones, like shit changes.
You're immersed in another world.
You're locked
Yeah,
in.
you get into a whole different mindset.
This will be my first time doing anything like this, so
Yeah?
it's a new experience.
It'll be fun, man.
Wait, pop this cherry.
Where'd you put the mugs? What? The liquor bottles. The liquor bottles are under here.
Well, I want to have these mugs out at least.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah. But
Nice.
we actually get coffee in them.
Here, put them in here.
Yeah, or something inside.
There you go.
Too bad I don't have anybody I can call. Hey, can you grab me coffee? No secretaries.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome, bro. Thank you. Matt's Cash and Carry.
Hell yeah.
Been in business for a long time.
50-something years, 53.
54. 53.
54 years.
4 years.
Well, so you guys started what date? Like what was the year?
It was late 1969 in San Benito.
1969 in San Benito. That's cool.
Yeah, my grandfather and a business partner of his moved from southern Louisiana.
Yeah.
And they were in the shrimping business, and there was a connection to South Padre or to Port Isabel, which was a twin city with the city my grandfather, Mr. Mott, was from. Morgan City, Louisiana, had that relationship here. So Hurricane Beulah hit, and they owned kind of a lumber yard over there. They packed up all their crap
Yeah.
and came to Texas and said,
They need
"Let's
lumber.
get started." Yeah,
Yeah.
they need lumber, and they sold lumber off the side of an 18-wheeler, like a flatbed, for several weeks before they found a facility. Back then, it was all cash. It was just a different world.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Can we get you a little closer to the mic? Just
Sure.
We just got to speak into the mic just so we could get that clarity when people are.
You sound higher.
Putting the volume,
You
yeah.
sound sexier when you closer to the mic.
It's
Alright,
a little. It's a little deeper.
Cool.
Man, so we were just actually talking about that movie Air.
Have you guys seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, dude.
Good man.
Oh man, super good movie. Super.
I
good
need to watch. Have you seen Founder?
I have not. man.
Oh,
I'm not a movie buff.
You
I
know-
gotta say, I used to be, but it's been a while, man. It's been a while.
That's-
so. Was it?
Air is really cool, man. I went to go watch it with Dan and Efren. Paul was there. Paul Morales.
shout out Paul.
Yeah, shout out to Paul with Structure Finance.
Thank you for the cup.
You're welcome.
Yeah, man. Do we have anything to put in here? Anyway, so yeah, dude, it's a super cool movie. It's based on like how Nike got Michael to sign on,
Wow.
and now, man, the Air Jordans are immortal, right?
Of course.
Everybody's got.
He definitely took it to another place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Nike fan just because of the person that kind of created the idea of the running shoe for Nike, the Prefontaine and that because he was like a distance runner. He couldn't really find a shoe that would fit him properly.
Yeah.
So this guy was like in his locker, in his dorm room, like creating like these different molds for his foot. And then the guy passed away.
Yeah.
No, he ran for Oregon. Yeah, he was a long distance runner and he was like on set to like break records like in the Olympics and stuff.
Yeah.
And like as far as I know, if I'm wrong, correct me. But that's the story behind Nike. That guy, that's how he started, and his shoe got popularity with him winning races.
Yeah.
What
And-
year? What year was that?
I want to say it was like in the 60s.
Wow.
60s, like early 60s, late 50s. Like it was like early on, like that happened to him. And he was actually out in a party in California, and he was involved in a car accident. Like his car like flipped off like one of the hills, and then he passed away.
Crazy.
That's wild, bro. Like that was,
Amazing
Yeah,
how
man.
things get started.
Yeah, dude. And then so they signed Michael Jordan, and the rest is history. And it's a really cool movie. And you guys would actually appreciate it because like the perspective is from a business perspective, and all the different characters and personalities that are involved in making those decisions, from marketing to design to sales to brokers to it's just really cool, man.
Well, it's an all-star cast, right?
Yeah.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, you got let's see.
you got nothing about prime times on there, or what?
I'm not good at names, but here I'll tell you right now.
That's crazy.
Air movie characters.
You hadn't seen the trailer?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be a big movie. Yeah.
It pumped me up, bro. When I saw it, I was like, oh, these guys are going off.
I mean, dude, if you grew up in the '80s, bro.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I'm born '74, so Air Jordans came out when I was in middle school, and I remember it just completely revolutionized the shoe
Completely.
industry. I mean, one after another, they just all had to follow suit and try to find a way. But they were so Air was so far ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, dude, you gotta watch the movie, and if anybody wants me to go with them, bro, I'll go.
I remember
I've seen it.
they were $80 when they first came out, and I remember thinking, "Holy crap!" I mean, that is the
want
most
'em.
expensive
Yeah.
shoe. and my mom bought me a pair, and everyone was like, "Oh, Jeremy got some Air Jordans." I didn't even play basketball.
I didn't know you had some.
Yeah, I did. My mom was always, a giver.
Was he the favorite or what?
Yeah, he was a favorite.
Are you
Really?
the oldest?
Really?
Yeah,
he's the oldest.
it was my mom is my Isaac and I are from different from this, my dad's second wife. My mom was Mr. Mott's daughter, and my parents divorced early on when we moved to the valley. So both of my parents got remarried to Hispanic. One to Martinez and one to Martinez and Olivares, and we went from having almost no first cousins and only one brother and sister or one aunt to having 18 aunts and uncles like that, and
That's
a
what happens
bunch
when you-
of first cousins.
That's what happens when you get married into a Hispanic family.
Oh my God!
Exactly. That's what
My
we do. We're really
entire
good at that stuff.
culture has changed. I mean, I was 3 when that happened, so I've grown up in basically two Hispanic families, and it's been nothing but a blessing. To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Dude, I love the
That's
Valley.
awesome.
You know what? I was thinking about it when I was driving over here. Like, all right, what am I going to ask these guys? But I was thinking about like the last few podcasts that we've done.
Yes, sir.
And what's kind of like the constant is family, bro. Like
Absolutely.
family. And Mr. V, I mean, him and his brother, they grew up together. They're both in the business, and now, like, if your last name was Villanueva, you're probably building. You know what I mean?
They're open.
We were talking to
Bayo
yesterday, and his mom started, in construction, built her own house, and so he got some inspiration from her, and now he's going strong, and I think he's trying to get his sister to
Involved.
work with him
Yes,
involved,
sir.
and so, man, all kidding aside, dude, I love being from the Valley, man.
I've said that so many times this year. I mean, I've known this for a long time, but it's solidified. Really, after the fire, it made it so obvious what was already obvious, that we live in a special place, and we've been blessed with the opportunity to be part of the RGV. I met a guy that one of our builders from Brownsville. They do gallery built homes.
Yeah.
Jason Starkey's their GM. He was a center for the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh,
Had it
shit,
down.
really?
Now was on E3030. He's now a foreman for gallery built homes. But
We need to get him in here, man. That'd be interesting
he said,
interview.
"Oh, he's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be cool.
You guys would love him.
Yeah.
And he's inspirational. Like you
Motivational speaker.
Motivational speaker. That's
Yeah.
what he does. That's what
Okay.
he does.
Okay.
Motivational speaker.
We need to
And
do that.
Yeah.
and frankly, he said it best. I mean, he said he came to the Valley and he wasn't from here. He met a woman, I think, from Fremont, and ended up in the Valley, ended up in Southmost, coached at the high school there. And he says this is the best place he's ever been. Like, he's lived in a lot of places, and he wouldn't trade this place for the world. The best zip code. He lives in, I think, Laguna Vista.
And that's because he's in Brownsville. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
hey, come to McAllen, bro.
Yeah, I mean, an
I was just kidding.
An
Brownsville's
NFL, a big white guy from the north that comes down here and thinks it's the best place in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, and I can tell you from a perspective of someone that's come from out of this area and been to other places, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, I don't think you really appreciate it till you leave.
Oh.
I remember when I first left the Valley, right out of high school, I was like, "What the hell did I do?" It's like, damn, I miss home.
everything.
I missed that, especially because I went to this like little town called Plainview, Texas. And I had not even visited before I even went over there. I was just like, I'm going. And when I showed up, it was called Plainview for a reason, bro. Like, there was nothing. Plainview. I showed up. They had one store. It was called an Allsups. I was like, what the heck is that? It was like their 7-Eleven or something. And it was just that and a private university.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was nothing there, man. It was the craziest experience, but you don't appreciate the Valley till you leave it.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Right out of high school, I went to Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And, I mean, talk about being like from the Valley where, you know, the coldest winter here was every now and then it would drop to, you know, the 30s, but, you know, 50-degree weather, and everybody's got the colchas and, you know, trying to cover up. To going from here to going to Colorado Springs, where, and I remember the first winter that I was there, it was 27 below.
Oh, dang.
Fucking like terrible. There was nothing I could do to warm up. My bones were cold. And I was like, man, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I had to come back home.
No,
I
the
miss
heat
Valley.
the heat gets to you, but you can always take off more clothes. You just gotta put on enough.
You can always get naked, and that's always fun.
It's also like a cultural shock as well. Like, I remember that was my biggest thing.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was like so different. People
Well,
were
and
just
the
so
last
different.
2 or 3 years, it's even more of a cultural change elsewhere than it has been here.
Yeah.
I can say we're unique in so many ways. At Mott's, we're unique in a way that we've even been able to maintain our employee culture through this shift in the population, the change in population. We still have a pretty traditional culture here, and that to me is worth its weight in gold.
Man, I agree 100%.
You know, it's gone for a lot of places. I have a daughter that's about to go to school.
Yeah.
And one of her main goals is to get out of the state.
Yeah.
You know, she does not want to stay in the state of Texas.
Wow.
So
How do you feel?
Tell
How do
them
you?
where they committed?
it's
She
been-
committed. Tell her where they
she
committed.
committed to Clemson.
Oh.
Okay.
And that was kind of a compromise. I think for her, it was a compromise to keep her in the South.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she initially wanted to go to. Her best offer was to Oregon, which I was, pretty adamant against personally.
Is this for sports, academic? Or is
It's academics, but you know, she tends to be. Young girls these days are pretty liberal. They just have this view of the world that's just different than the world we even young ladies in the time we grew up. It was different, and even in the last 5, I think it's really social media, but also a combination of the last couple of years and the fast paced change of so many different things.
I feel like life has changed so much.
I mean,
in like
just
the last
social
couple of
media
years.
alone, dude. Like, you have access pretty much to the entire world.
It's like in warp speed
Yeah,
compared
it's
to when
in
we were
warp.
children.
We are in warp speed right now. I talk to my kids, man, and it freaks me out how much knowledge they have.
How old?
So I've got a 17-year-old son that's about to go to Texas A&M.
Shout out.
Gig him. He got a full
I have a
ride.
son- I
By
have
the
a-
way, he
I
got
have-
a full ride. Dude.
I have a son-
Every dad's like dream.
I have a son that's likely to go there next year, but
Yeah.
he won't be on a full ride.
Yeah, and that's all right. Make sure
But he's gonna go.
we get them together, bro, so that they help each other out.
Cool.
Yeah, dude, got a full ride. Texas
That
A&M.
is
Super
awesome,
excited for that kid, man.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, damn. So how does it make you feel as a father seeing this this type of change happening so fast within within like our youth? Because I see it. I mean, I have a little brother, you know, so
It's honestly frightening. I was just telling Isaac on the way here. I had about a 3-hour conversation with my daughter last night. It was
3-hour conversation. That's actually
it was
cool,
the
man.
best conversation I've had with her.
Tell me about that, 'cause I
in the
need some-
entire high school career. I probably haven't had the combined conversation in 3 years that I had with her last night.
Man,
it was
same here.
It was awesome. Honestly, we talked about everything
Yeah.
from every bit of politics that we've been brushing under the table. She doesn't like my opinion on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it's been
How old is she?
she's 18.
Okay. Cool.
So she's about to head out of the state and embark
Yeah.
out. And my son, I got a 17-year-old right behind him that will be doing the same thing next year. Boys, they're just different. They're more receptive. They're more absorbing of their father's information than a daughter is. The daughter, especially my daughter, being as intelligent as she is, she's very guarded in what she'll listen to.
Yeah.
Tries not to listen to things that may conflict with her beliefs.
Point of view.
And even getting her to listen or read something, she doesn't watch anything. She's a big reader, but she guards herself on what she'll allow herself to listen to. And to me, that's the conversation we had yesterday. You need to open your eyes to that's a lot of things you're listening to and being sold are bullshit. And you need to
gotta be careful,
realistic.
right? Like at least have an open mind to decipher and analyze
Listen
what
to both
information is coming
perspectives.
in, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And don't, I think we've been sold a bill. I talk about the social movement, particularly when it comes to energy and environmental
Sure.
concern. We've been sold a bill that there's an alternative way of doing things that has no cost at all, which is obviously not true. We like to talk
Everything
in terms
costs
of-
money.
Exactly. And
Everything
not
costs
just
something.
money, but it has consequences.
Sure.
Whether you're going with clean energy or traditional carbon energy, they both have a physical cost to the world around you.
Right.
When you feed 7.5 billion people and you have produce energy for 7.5 billion people, and the waste from 7.5 billion people, there's going to be some consequences whether you go with path A or path B or path C or whichever path you go. And the world around you has sold you this bill that there is no cost to the alternative, when you need to be willing to open your mind and knowing that's not true, first of all. So look at the alternatives and then be realistic about how you approach alternatives. You can't just go from point A to point B or to point Z without hitting some points in between.
Yeah.
And I was surprised, honestly, with that long conversation, how I felt she probably thought and how she actually thought. She was much more grounded than I actually believed.
Yeah.
And it was comforting to have the conversation and know that, wow, my daughter's not as crazy as I thought she was.
She's analyzing the stuff on her own and going through it.
Exactly. And it was
In a responsible and
And the only way I could get have this conversation was by being open-minded and not approaching it from a aggressive standpoint, by letting her speak. And she's months away from going to school, so I'm gonna have to let go. So I decided to let her talk. And
because as fathers, right, like you don't necessarily want to control, but you do want to have some effect and some impact on your kids and what they're thinking, because you've been through it. And man, shit, we all know that it's a tough world, right? And so
Definitely.
you want to get them prepared but yeah, the right way obviously is to approach it in a way where let me get to know you.
I thought that comfort was, I just didn't know her as well as I do now.
Yeah.
And I feel more comfortable.
One conversation.
That's
crazy.
And
That's cool.
It was. I've been waiting for this conversation for a long time, and it finally happened yesterday.
Why do you feel like it took you so long?
Well, every time I would go into the conversation, I'd probably lead in with something that was already creating a defensive position, and we'd ended up fighting before we could even have a conversation.
Oh,
You're putting your point of view forward before you even have heard.
I was judging before I was listening.
yeah.
And that was the problem. And yesterday I decided to really listen to her opinion and only judge when she's had her chance to really tell me how she really feels. And it was comforting to know that I was wrong about my approach and that there's another way. So,
and I love this topic, dude, because obviously in the construction business, there's a lot of men, right? Predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I'm going through that now. Like I've got a 14-year-old daughter that I want to have the best relationship that I can with her, and it's hard. Like, what the fuck do I know about being a 14-year-old girl? Nothing.
Not much. And
not
I'm
much.
the same way. You know?
Yeah. And so I've got a trip coming up with her 2 weekends from now. I bought her tickets to Taylor Swift, man. She's a big Swiftie fan. So I'm going with
Just
her.
the two of you?
It's just going to be the two of us, and I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
That's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity that for me is priceless, man. There was no amount of money that I wouldn't pay for that ticket just to be able to do that with her, and so that's going to be really cool. My son's got a mariachi concert in Round Rock, and so right after that, her and I are gonna head to Houston, go see that, man. So we got a long drive ahead of us. That's gonna be really interesting. But anyway, yes, I already ordered the Swiftie Dad shirt, and I got her a pair of AJ1s, Air Jordans. So I said, baby, I'll wear the shirt, but you're wearing the shoes, right? And so this should be a fun trip, man. It's a really cool topic, dude.
That is awesome. I think that's I'm sure it'll be a great opportunity for you.
Yeah.
I would recommend, listening as much as possible, getting to know who she really is,
who she is, yeah.
and then trying to understand that and approach a guidance standpoint from that knowledge. Get to know her first before you decide to rake her through the coals.
What do you think? What do you think it is that creates that sort of tension? Do you think it between yourself and what would be your children? You think it would be like you hear them speak to you and you kind of want to guide them and they don't want that guidance?
Well,
in a way,
in my case, I think it's actually as a white man growing up in this country, and my daughter being half Hispanic or being Hispanic, she's been taught that we're the bad guy in a lot of ways, that we're oppressive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And
don't listen to the oppressive guy.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And not listening to me because I'm part of the problem. So how can I be part of the solution?
Yeah.
And as a father, that's something
that's interesting,
really
man.
I've really had struggles with that because I feel I have a lot to give my children from a knowledge standpoint, and when they're not receptive to that, it hurts me because I feel like, what did I learn this for, and what good was it if I can't pass it on to my children?
Right.
And that's another conversation my daughter and I had yesterday, and she says I've learned a lot more from you than I've let on. And she gave me some examples, and after giving me examples of some of the things she's learned, I felt a lot better about our relationship than I did prior to that conversation.
That's so cool, man. Congrats, dude. Like, I'm sure that was
what you said earlier. Having one conversation can make all the difference. I found that with kids in general. Like, I believe that if someone's interested in learning, let's say you find someone that's likes business, and you have a conversation I've had conversations with 14, 15-year-old boys that just happen to be receptive and listening, and we're having a conversation, and I'm like, I feel I can make a difference in this person's life by just sharing this story right now. And then later you find out that you did have an impact. You changed the direction of someone. As a human being, that's a pretty nice memory to have. And I would recommend, trying to change the youth and direct our youth as much as possible, our own kids especially, but even those we have opportunity to influence within maybe our kids' friends, and because children these days, I mean, they're definitely in a tougher world than we lived in, where the influences are just overwhelming. Yeah, overwhelming.
Back in the day, you could make a mistake and shit, nobody would know about it. Right now, it's like, fuck, you can't do anything, and everything's
out there.
Yeah. Everything's on you.
You're being shamed.
He's got younger kids. So.
Yeah, I got 4. So I mean, for me, when I talk to, I talk to buddies that are principals, and I have counselor friends and teachers. The number one, I think, detriment to our children, obviously education, but the amount of time spent on social media, on the devices, any electronic devices, when they're spending 4, 5, 6 hours a day, and as a parent, you're only spending a few minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
What chance do you have, right?
What's your influence?
Yeah, what's your influence going to be like if they're spending all this time on social media, all this time on a device, a video game, whatever it is? That's why I think as parents, you do have to have some monitoring. You have to control it. I mean, you're the parent, and we have this conversation pretty regularly because he knows, he's like, hey, you got to do it.
You got to do it before it's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late.
How old
for
is
me.
How old is your oldest?
I have 13, 10, 7, and 2.
How does it make you feel, like, with seeing your brother go through what he's going through, and knowing that, I mean, your kids are more susceptible now to the devices and the world that they're seeing, you know, because it's a fake world that they see on this.
Yeah.
Because you could be anybody at any time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the point, is that people on the devices, they don't live in reality. It's not real. Like, the conversation we're having is real, but most people will live on these devices, and it's not reality. They live in this fake world, and they get fed all this propaganda, whatever it is. I mean, we like things, and some of these things are good, and some of these things are bad. But I think most kids nowadays are living this fake world, and it's not reality. If you look around them, we have it pretty good, and we're pretty blessed. But they're looking at somebody else's reality or whatever they're being fed, and then that's creating their worldview. And it's like, it's not the right worldview. It's not a real worldview.
Right.
It's a fake worldview.
Right.
And I think that's, as parents, we got to say, you know what? This is real. This is not. You know what I mean? This is reality.
But
This
it tends to be the fact that the outcome for the child from the mid 2000s through today, the outcome has been the same, regardless of what their beliefs are, regardless of what they think. And I think that's true even for young adults. They're moving into their 20s, and they went through the Great Recession, but they really didn't experience any hardships. They had it okay. They've had a safety net that's provided for them and kept them even keel. If you go back further, like going back to the people that experienced the Great Depression, on the very small scale, even the people that were 3, 4, 5 years old, they remember the Great Depression like if it was just yesterday. They lived their whole life after that because the experience was a reality. It wasn't a choice. You couldn't just say, no, this isn't happening. Guess what? There was no food. There was no jobs. There was no productivity. And I think we live in a world where, as parents, we can insulate our children from the reality. And we do. We tend to give them the same things, the same results, regardless of whether they make effort or don't make effort, so they don't learn incentives. They don't learn their as a parent, I can tell you that's one of the things I struggle with the most is knowing giving your kids too much and giving them a free ride is a bad choice. It's going to teach them horrible lessons. But the other side of me, the parent side, the loving father side, wants to do everything for my children, wants to give my children everything.
Yeah, you got to find that balance, right?
And I think I've failed in some regards. I've gone too far by giving too much and not punishing enough.
Yeah.
And I think I look at my brother who still has children that are much younger and tell him, you have an opportunity to do it differently and learn from the mistakes. I was a very self-aware parent. I knew what I didn't want to do, and I did it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Man, raising kids is a tough thing, man. You try to find that balance at the end of the day, but I think what's most important, truly, is certain things that we're talking about now have some impact, right? But I truly, truly believe that the biggest impact that you can make on your kids is just to show them that they're loved, bro. As long as you do that, all those little other things, man, you can make a mistake, one here, one there, but they don't have as detrimental of an impact as a kid that grows up with or without love.
No, and I think this is specific to the child's love language. All kids are different. True. We're all different. We all need to be loved a certain way. True. Whether we're a time person, a words of affirmation person, gifts person, whatever it is. we need to love our children in the way they greatly desire to be loved. You know, their primary love language. And me having 4 kids and going through it is like they all require special attention, special needs, and they require that special touch. You know, that attention. So how do we love them? I mean, it's important. I mean, if they're going to a concert, something they're gonna value.
She's
and
excited.
Exactly. Then that's a great way to spend, and that's a great way to kind of love on your kids. But yeah, loving on them is huge, and making sure you just love them the right way. Because I know I've been guilty of not loving my kids the right way, and sometimes you got to take a step back, and you got to be slow to speak and quick to listen. Right? I mean, we got to
correct your behavior.
Correct your behavior.
I did it wrong, and I'm willing to admit it.
And even at a young age, even my 2-year-old, she wants to be heard, and you're like, what does a 2-year-old need to say? But you got to sit there attentively and look. What do you need? What do you want? You know, and as a 2-year-old to an 18-year-old, they still got to be heard. They still got to be listened. You still got to make the time and the effort to listen and want to be involved and engaged in your kids' lives. And if they see that, they're going to know that they're going to recognize that, hey, these people really, really care. I mean, my parents really care about me. And I think, it goes a long way. It goes a long way. It does go a long way, but it has to be intentional. It has to be very intentional, and it takes work. If being a good parent was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, that's true. Absolutely, man. You know, I also believe that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, man. So if you guys, you know, your kids are going to be fine, right? Our kids are going to be fine. They're going to be perfect? No, right? We're not. No, and definitely. We're always going to be trying to figure life out. I mean, you're still trying to figure out the whole parenting thing.
And,
you know?
and what your kids do. I mean, do you want them to be involved in
the company?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a dream for any dad, right? Like,
of course.
But I'm not going to force that on them. Like, if it's something that they truly feel in their heart, man, this is what they want to do. By all means, I want to create an environment for them to come and flourish. Right.
It's exactly that. I couldn't create an environment were the words I'd use to say the same thing. That's all I want to do is be able to create an environment where if my kids choose, they have the option to. But we're a real contributing type. We grew up. Our dads taught us that we'll give you an opportunity, but you got to prove yourself.
You shouldn't be entitlement. Dad always said, like, I don't want you to be entitled. Just because you're my sons or you're my family doesn't mean you're entitled to anything that I have. You know, he always wanted us to work for it, and that was true for us coming on board. He wanted to make sure we got an education, we're college educated, and we work from the ground up every single step of the way. He was like, you know what, I'm just not going to gift you a position. I'm not going to give you anything.
We were both loaders, stockers at the store, cashiers,
whatever.
You've done it all.
Yeah, we did. We did it all. And being younger, like 13, 14, 15, when I worked in the company, I was like, man, I just want to just pay me a lot of money. You know, just let me.
I just want to make a lot of money, Dad.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
And I was like, okay, well, I can work in the back for a little bit. And he was like, after high school, he was like, no, you know what? I'm not going to give you a raise or a advancement in position until you graduate college. And I was like, what? Like, this is.
I can make more outside of the company.
I can make more outside of the company. But no, now we're looking back. There's a plan and purpose. He didn't want me to have that entitlement mentality. And I think it's important that we don't like just gift our kids things. I mean, we live in a free market enterprise where it rewards the work sometimes, not all the time, but we have to make sure that there's winners and losers. We have to, and usually you have to work hard. And again, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
So, I mean, our dad was always like, you know what, you guys got to work for it. You got to work at it, and I don't want to ever feel that my employees that, hey, these are the sons and they just got it for whatever, for not doing anything. I mean, we worked really hard and we worked a lot of hours to put into where we are today. And I think a lot of that has to deal with dad and his mentality to say, you know what, I don't want you to have an entitlement mentality. Like, I don't want any of my sons feeling they're entitled or my grandkids feeling they're entitled. You got to work for it. You got to earn it.
Yep.
And that was always a big thing for him. And that was always what stuck with me with dad when growing up is like, okay, I got to work for it. I got to work at it. And I got to get up early, put the hours in, do whatever I got to do to make sure we're successful. And, it's not going to, this free market society is not going to reward poor performance or lack of effort. It's only going to reward if you put whatever you get in, right? Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out of it. So
right. That's the society that we live in.
Yeah, society that we live in. But
the same way now with business. Business is slowing. So if we want to get more out of the market, we've got to gobble up market share. Got to go out
And hustle.
look for leads, put ourselves out there, make sure we're not just sitting back and waiting for things to come to us.
Hang out with the guys at the STBA, right? I mean, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
You know, really, I mean, really, because you got to get to know all the people.
Get on the air.
No, and we had this conversation yesterday with a new lead customer. It's about building relationships. We want to build relationships. We want to do good. We want to do good business with people that we enjoy doing business. Life is short.
Yeah,
we want to enjoy. We want to enjoy it, but it's too short to have to worry about like all the frivolous things. You know, I mean, we work too hard. And life is too short to have to worry about just the frivolous things in life. You got to just enjoy life.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride, but enjoy the people. You know, enjoy the company.
And going back to the opportunity that the Valley is a great place to live, it also represents a great opportunity for us in our industry. I think for
the
decades,
foreseeable future,
for decades to come.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday about growth opportunities in Cameron County that are not fully in place. Like you look at the Brownsville, South Padre Island area. I'm a believer that casinos will make their way to South
area,
Padre at some point.
Man, there's a casino somewhere out in like La Feria or something. like that.
That's not a casino.
I know it's not a casino, but hey,
we're not going to out those people in this show.
No, let's not do that. Let's not go there. I'm talking about.
It ain't no casino. It ain't no casino.
You already put them on blast. Can we please scratch that from the record?
I think everyone knows about that place.
But I do think, in all fairness, I think the one of our biggest growth areas we don't have here yet. We're just scratching the surface is tourism.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And tourism, I think it's going to be more directed towards Cameron County than Hidalgo County. But I think it's going to come, and it's going to be within the next decade. The Valley is going to be a destination that it just wasn't before, and you're going to see it's going to require that development to take place.
I mean,
but it's coming, and when it does, it'll be big,
with the island and
for the Valley.
SpaceX. I think there's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
There's definitely a lot of opportunities there, and the Valley is a good market. Texas is a good market. I mean, in general, but the Valley is a really
That's
good
why I
market.
tell my kids, don't sell yourself short. I know you want to get out of the Valley, but you want to maybe work your way back to the Valley.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. We know that the Valley is going to grow, right? Like it's going to continue to blow up, maybe.
Absolutely.
I think it's barely
But,
scratched the surface in a way.
Yeah, dude.
Barely.
More reason that just to kind of touch back on the whole STBA thing, and kind of the reason that you guys are even here is we started this organization where we decided, hey, look, we can all actually work together. What an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Right. We know that the Valley is going to grow, and we know that we're going to have to build homes and build businesses and build buildings, and we already have people doing that here. And so let's all just kind of get to know each other. Mm-hmm. It's gonna happen. So we might as well know who the players are, and if new players are coming in, get to know them too, so that we create an environment once again that is going to be fruitful for all of us down here. And when your kids decide, you know what, I want to go back down to the Valley. Well, we've already created a network that's truly helping each other out, where you can kind of just come in, and your dad already did a bunch of work here. We respect him for that. We got to know him already. We know his beliefs. Mm-hmm. And that kid doesn't have to start from zero.
Exactly.
Man. So that's so long as I'm going to be the chairman here for the next year and a half, man. That's what I truly believe that we're trying to create. So
I see more opportunities to work together as growth is taking place. I mean, obviously, as a competitor for other suppliers in the market, I see enough opportunity to go around.
All of you.
Yeah, there's opportunity for everyone. I think the market is in a lull right now, but you have to have these cooling periods in order to get to better times. Going back to comparisons, you only have really good times. Like we in this industry, most people did really well as a supply side. 21, 22 were like the best years they've ever had for the industry. If you've been around 50 years.
How did you all feel when that was happening?
Oh, it was, well, at first, frightened.
Because you all see, like, you all are pretty with, like, y'all are inside seeing, like,
oh, well, at first
like
it
the
was
market. I know that you guys,
Jeremy's our lumber buyer, so he's constantly with traders. He's with brokers. He's looking at the numbers every single day.
And it was terrifying up front. When February, March, April of 2020, business was already starting to pour in, but it was scary because you can't open. You have all these rules.
We had no idea what to expect.
No idea,
right?
and we're cutting purchases.
Government shutdown.
We're cutting purchases because we don't want.
Yeah.
We're cutting purchases because we don't want to owe more money than we can afford to pay.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, inventory is starting to sell faster, and we haven't been ordering because we're trying to cut inventory. And everyone did it more severely than we did. We finally decided to capitulate and buy inventory. And then we just parlayed it again and again and again and again. And it built enough momentum to where even if things were to fall apart, we've built enough cushion that we could sustain ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's where we got. So we got through those great years. And yesterday I was talking to someone about that, and they were like, how do you think this year is going to be? Well, I said, we're already there. We already see how it is. And it's not the same robust market that 2021 and 22 are. And they said, well, what do you think we have to do to get back there? I said, in all honesty, the reason those markets were so great is because in comparison to the other years, they're great. You don't have greatness without normal.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to have
There
normal.
has to be a comparison, right?
Yeah. If things were great all the time, that would be normal.
The word in and of itself, the definition requires
ups and downs. And
some ups and downs. So
Yeah.
you're going to have
Comparison.
years that are less great, and then you can make them all good. But if you expect a 2021 and 22 and 23, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So the best thing to do is frame your expectations and your goals to reality, not to some alternate reality. And we, as a company, I can tell you, have adapted really well to that.
Yeah.
We're profitable at the levels we're at. Our sales are probably off pieces 25%, but dollars probably more like 35% because everything's selling cheaper too.
Yeah, margins are smaller.
Margin per piece is way off because if you're selling a sheet of OSB at $10, you obviously can't make $6 off of that sheet. At $40, you can make $6.
Yeah,
you can't
sure.
do that at this level.
Yeah.
So, and we're selling fewer sheets than we were last year because there's less sales in the market.
You know what? Right now that you say that, I was having a conversation with one of my uncles, and he runs one of the junior supermarkets. He got married to. So my dad's uncle is Mr. Felix. He owns all the junior supermarkets here in the valley, right? And one of his son-in-laws runs the new market in Edinburgh that they just opened off of University. I'm sorry. And we were walking the store and stuff, and I was like, man, it's a great store. Awesome store. And I was like, I don't know why the conversation came up of I was like, how long does it take you to replace this can of tuna if someone takes this can of tuna? And that's what he told me. He's like, I have to sell 3 cans of tuna to replace this 1 can of tuna. And I was like, how does that work? He's like, because this can of tuna is selling for 28 cents. He's like, but we didn't buy it for 28 cents. He's like, what do you buy it for? He said like a 20 or 18 cents or whatever. But he was like, what, by the time you take into paying employees, paying your electricity, paying your water, paying everything, he's like, it takes a lot to replace one product. He's like, if people see, oh, well, it's a huge store and we're selling all this stuff, like, oh, they must be making buttloads of money. He's like, but that's not how these stores work. No. And it was one of those, like, right now that you were speaking, I kind of wanted to ask you, how does it work within your business where maybe, let's say, a sheet OSB goes missing, or let's say a window goes missing. Like, how do you deal with that? Or is it just like, hey, you know what? Let's go. Just keep moving. Doesn't even matter.
Well, I mean, there's an industry standard for shrinkage, and shrinkage is part of the business. It's just unfortunately,
that accounts for theft, damage, products, misplacement, anything that gets
fire.
Industry,
you know what I mean? Like then there's that.
There's that. Yeah,
the industry
fire.
standard has grown to as high as 5 to 6%. Ours is probably 1.5 to 2%. It's still a lot of money, though.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I was telling my stepmom once about the money we were, the shrinkage number, and we were talking about the percentages, and she's like, "It's not that bad." But then we put it in terms of dollars, and she's like, "What?" Because it's it's $1 million a year.
We need to stop this now. Yeah,
it's over $1 million. It's over $1 million that we account for in shrinkage and damages that you have to account that you have to take it off the books, and you mean that takes out, that's a loss. I mean,
it comes out of our pocket. Your cost. So you in the end, unfortunately, it's part of the markup process. It's just like credit card expenses. Our credit card expenses are hundreds of thousands of dollars a month as well.
Yeah,
and just a process.
Guess who pays for that? Not us.
Yeah.
In the end, unfortunately, the consumer pays for all of the things.
Yeah. All of it.
Yeah.
You have to have markups that cover your costs, and you're right. That 18-cent cost may make them a penny and a half.
Right.
But all the other stuff, including shrinkage, including employees.
It
whatever, it all factors in, and it's all factored in, including those credit card expenses. For us, we have chargebacks. There's people can just claim they didn't charge something on their credit card.
Yeah,
that costs us over $150,000 a year.
A year, shit.
We fight some of them. We fight them all.
Yeah,
but the system is rigged against the merchant.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. It's rigged against the consumer and the merchant. The only people that win are the credit card companies and the banks. Those are the people that win.
Because they pass the cost on to us, and we ultimately have to pass the cost back onto the consumer. So ultimately, the consumer pays for it. So
absolutely,
it's not fair, but that's the system that's built. So we just work within the system.
It's America. It's America.
Yeah.
It's kind of like capitalism in a distorted way.
Yep. So getting back to the timeline, right? So 2020 starts, and we're all kind of freaking out, and then we start seeing, okay, shit, we're about to start getting really busy, right? And then lumber spikes. Right. What time frame was that? That was in 21?
21.
Yeah, it was the mid to late. Well, it happened twice. It happened in August of 21, and then again in July of 22, or June, July of 22 was the biggest. It was the biggest spike.
The biggest spike.
But they were both enormous.
Yeah,
they were both 300% moves or more.
So from a builder perspective, I'll talk about me. I didn't have that plan. There was no way I could foresee that, right? And so all our contracts that we did and all our negotiating that we do is done months previous. When plywood was $10, and now, man, we're buying it at 40. And oh shit, next week it went up again. And then it went up again. I mean, I swear it went up to like $60 at some point.
It was uncontrollable.
Yeah, 6 times the amount I would normally pay. And so from a builder's perspective, man, that was like, that's why we started this organization at that time. And it's like, damn.
So these prices are going up, right? How are they going up for you all?
Yeah, how does it affect you guys?
One of the advantages we had, in all fairness, in some markets, the sellers are contracted also, meaning we would have been contracted on pricing whether we had the material or not. This isn't one of those markets. Here, it's an open market, which means
as you need it, right?
For what I pay, I'm going to pay it. I'm going to sell it at a markup over what I paid for it.
Yeah, right.
If everyone else is doing it, that's what I'm going to do. Unless I had contracts written, I'm not going to agree to a $6 price on OSB if I'm paying $40 for it.
Right.
Right. In some markets, though, they had sold that wood out a year at $6. Well, they're stuck with those contracts or breaking contracts. So all around the country, there was huge amounts of contracts that got broken, even from the manufacturers agreeing to contracts that they weren't willing, because they could honor them, but they could make so much more by breaking the contract that they decided to break contracts. Yeah. We're trying to put some tools in place, because I know one of the things you guys initially brought up was how do you mitigate that risk?
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the problems that I see with the way people want to do business is they want to get the lowest price locked in now
Yeah.
for 6 months from now, but they don't want to pay anything for that premium.
Right.
You either have to buy
To lower the risk.
you either have to pay insurance to buy the time, or you have to pay for storage on the material, both of which have a physical cost,
cost,
a
yeah.
real cost.
Yep.
I calculate that cost. I'm thinking of numbers somewhere around 2% a month. For example, if someone wanted to buy something at today's price, 6 months from now, I would give them an option to buy, let's say, a specified list of products that are
100,000.
the bulk-
100,000.
and they're the bulk of the items, like the OSB, the studs, the key items.
Okay.
At 2% premium per month, I'll offer you a cost as far as you want out.
Yeah.
If you want a year, it's 24%.
Yeah.
Then it's up to me to decide when I want to cover that based on the delivery date you expect. You have to take it within in a year, but you can lock in the prices. We are also seeing a way of locking in pricing on, like things like siding, things like your fascias, your soffits. They can be locked in from the manufacturer for a year on job quotes. So those items, they got rid of that program during the pandemic, but it's back now, which means you can not only get a discounted price, you can lock it in. We can lock it in for you with no cost up front for an entire year. On lumber, that can't be done though. So
Gotcha.
it either requires me storing it or taking the chance that it's going to go up and I've got to buy it anyway. And I'm willing to sell that at a 2% premium per month.
It's complicated, right? To say
But I
the
think-
least,
but I
because
think it will mitigate. But what I found in the past is that people will say, "Okay, I'll agree to that," but then when the price falls, they don't buy it from me; they
Right.
buy it from someone else.
Right.
Well, I'm like, well, you have to have a contract saying you're going to take
Yes.
the material,
Right.
and the other thing is you have to pay the premium up front. In other words, we write a contract for this amount of material. You pay 12% if you want 6 months.
yeah.
You pay 12% of the volume. It is $100,000. You pay $12,000 up front. That locks your price in for 12 months or for 6 months. And if you needed additional time, you pay another 2% per month on
Gotcha.
that
on that part.
material.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a fair way of looking at it. I would then be responsible for storing the material if your time goes on beyond that and storing it at 2%.
Interesting.
So I think that would be a way of you mitigating
Yeah.
some of the risk.
Especially if you got big projects coming up or like volume coming up. That's that. I
And
can
that
see
way,
that.
if I see an explosion in costs coming, then it would be my responsibility to buy before that explosion
Right.
and lock it in and store it. And I'd have to have the space to store it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, right now, I wouldn't recommend that because I don't see that risk.
There isn't any spikes up or down that you foresee.
But I will say we're living in a world that's changed. And it's the potential
Is
for
always there.
unusual risks.
It's any day now.
It can happen
Yeah.
at any
Yeah.
At any moment.
I mean, it happened.
And we would have never foreseen anything that happened with COVID having the impact that it had.
How did you all feel about that? Like because you guys
Blind.
come from a different
Yeah.
generation. Like, how did you feel?
Terrified, blind, and then as time went on and we were rolling with good success,
With the punches, so to
it got
speak.
comfortable because it was like, hey, this is working.
Yeah.
Honestly, by early 2021, which was when the pandemic, the inventory crisis was really starting to hit, I was already seeing it as a major opportunity because I could tell that no one else was handling it very well.
Yeah.
And if I could handle it better than my peers, we're
That,
gonna,
that
we're
little
gonna
margin that you can make extra is huge.
Oh, we had all the LVLs,
Yeah.
and that was the key.
Yeah.
That was the key.
That's awesome.
I had the keys.
Lesson learned. Get the LBOs.
Wow.
And the way you did that was just by basically working with every supplier I could find to get deals made to sell me at a higher price than the competitors.
So we're going through some crazy times and shit's going up and down, and we're trying to figure out how to get through it as a company, right, Matt? And then tragedy, right?
New Flyer, yeah.
What date was that? I'm sure you guys remember.
That was on January 1st.
January 1st.
22.
22. So
Started on January or December 31st, 21. I'm sure.
I actually got
Let's bring in the new year, right?
Yeah.
Not to make fun of it, but damn,
yeah,
like,
it-
what a crazy time.
When we were joking about it yesterday though, but we laughed because Jeremy lives right behind the store with my dad. They not together, but they live in separate houses right behind the store.
You still live with your pops?
Yeah, no.
Yo,
Right
Ma,
next
where's
to
the
him.
meatloaf?
I do. I have a door connected to my.
I don't know what he's doing back there.
I never know what she's doing.
I don't know what she's doing back there. But he was the only one that was actually like on site, but we were closed on the Saturday because it was the first, so we closed on that holiday. But I know he was there, and the first call I got, I was at the island with my wife and our baby. We the kids had gone with my parents, and I got a call from Efren. Was the first one. Efren.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Shout out Efren.
Yeah,
Where's he
shout
at?
out.
He was supposed to make a cameo
Yeah,
today.
he was supposed to come sit right here.
Yeah.
He would,
No, literally, we talked about
yeah,
it.
we talked about that yesterday. But he called me. He was like, "Hey, bro, I think there's something going on with your store. There's something that I see. I was passing by and there was smoke coming up. I was like, it was probably just some guy barbecuing or something's happened. Usually sometimes we've had fires in the past or was whatever. And then I was like, I didn't think anything of it. And then next call, I called Jeremy, and I called Jeremy. I was like, just to make sure. I was like, he's there. Let me just call him. Hey, bro. And then by this time already, he was screaming hysterically, "There's a fire! The fucking fire!" And he was like out of his mind, like, oh my!
can
And I was
imagine,
like,
bro.
I don't
mean,
remember any of it.
You don't remember any of it?
I had
Out-of-body experience.
my earbuds in there. I have no idea where they are. They just must have just thrown them to the side, ran to my dad's house frantically, saw this probably 10-foot fire.
No, it was enormous because I could see it from Edinburgh.
No, but I'm telling
When
you,
it
when it first started,
it
yeah.
went from like 11-15 being 15 feet wide and 10 feet tall to 11-30 being enormous.
It was huge.
And it took a truck explosion and a couple of butane tanks exploding to make that ignition just spread from there. And I saw that right in front of me, and it was like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
Surreal. I mean, you literally, I remember thinking to myself, there's a 99% chance everything is going to burn down.
Yeah.
In a split second, I remember thinking that I was sitting there with a pool, a swimming pool of water, that if I could just get this water onto this fire, I would be gone.
How do I pick
I
up
have
the
two
pool?
water
Yeah.
hoses. I have two water hoses, and and my neighbor's like, when one of the butane tanks explodes, he grabs me and says, "It's
You're
time to
probably
go."
not going to put it out.
And I'm like, it's just like, give it up already.
You're
Wow.
dodging freaking propane tanks and shit.
And then from there, it just, just watching it was just, it happened so fast. Just the spread, just boom, boom. The vent. I was watching this shed with these vents, the 4-foot vents, and you can just see the fire is a door shop, so it has this really flammable material inside, and it's just, the vents are just boom, boom, boom. Each one just moving 4 feet every probably half a second. Just another one going on, another one going on. You can just see the whole room spreading out, and then another building that has a 15-foot gap between the two, and if it jumps to this building, it's over.
Game
and I'm
over.
just watching between the buildings, and then I don't see any flames, but I see smoke start coming out of the ridge of the second building. And I'm like, it's
How
already
did that
jumped.
happen? Yeah.
And then you just see flames just, and from there it's out of control, and it was really terrifying.
it was about 200,000 square feet of
A burn space.
retail and warehouses and everything. I mean,
11 forklifts, and that's just a small part of the fleet. No trucks, though. Luckily, we had all our trucks parked outside.
Yeah.
The irony is this: the material. If you look at what inventory burned and what inventory didn't, you get to know what turns are. Turns are how many times you sell something a year. Mm-hmm. Well, good turning material in our industry turns 6, 7, 8 times a year, meaning you sell through your entire inventory 6 times a year on
Gotcha.
that product. Well, the stuff that burned up was like 1 turn a year, meaning
Okay.
it was our slow-moving inventory, our
Gotcha.
slow movers. Our surviving inventory was like 20 turns a year. So all the stuff that mattered survived. All the stuff that didn't. All the stuff that we could afford
That mattered less. Yeah.
that we could afford to lose and survive is what ended up getting burned up in the
Yeah.
fire. And all the stuff we couldn't afford to lose. We would have been dead in the water if the opposite had happened. There's no way we would have.
There's so many things, and I go down the list in my mind of things that if they happen just slightly different,
Who knows?
no, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be having different jobs, a different career. We'd be out of a job. And if our inventory had burned, that would have been one of them. If we had left our trucks parked in the warehouses because we couldn't operate because you couldn't get vehicles at the time.
6 months to get vehicles at the time.
So if that happened, we would have been done.
Shut down.
Yeah. If our insurance didn't, if we didn't have the right insurance, and we were underinsured still, so we still had to take loans out. So we weren't completely covered. People think that, oh, we got all this insurance money. That's a myth. That's a myth.
Stop making myths.
Yeah, it's not true.
That's cheese man.
Yeah, that's cheese man.
It was adequate, but it wasn't ideal.
It wasn't ideal. It was adequate enough for us to continue operation. And then the offices, we had the guy next door basically said, hey, you know what? Do you need an office? And he had an office suite that was vacant, and we didn't have any AR, AP, any team. We had lost everything. All the computer equipment, everything that we had was there, but we had it backed up. If we didn't have our servers backed up on the cloud, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
A year earlier, we had a different program that was not backed up on the cloud. If it had happened then, we wouldn't even have known what customers owed us.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how bad it would have been.
So if any one of those things would have happened differently, if we lost the vehicles, we would have been done. If we lost the inventory, we would have been done. If we didn't have the office, if we didn't have the backup servers, we would have been done. Like all these things hinged it on it was like a fine, delicate line, and it was like, how did everything fall into place? Like where we could actually operate. It was miraculous.
The wind blowing the correct direction.
Yeah.
Was part of.
Damn.
It worked.
Yeah,
That's so crazy, man.
It was just one thing after another, and like Jeremy said, like when we first started the conversation about being here in the valley, and the support that we've gotten, and the people just coming and say, hey, we got your back, and just the kind of encouragement we kept on hearing. I mean, I broke down when I got there, and I was in tears because, man, I spent my whole life there. I mean, my whole life I didn't know anything but work and being there. It was a second home for me. It was actually my home. I consider that place more of a home than my actual house at home.
Spend more time.
I spent more time there, and I had everything there. It was really personal.
Yeah, crying with neighbors that lived behind us. I remember a kid came up to me, probably 15, 16 years old, has a eardrop tat on his eye. He comes up to me and crying and hugged me and was like, man, you got to be going through some shit.
Yeah.
And I still, it makes me tear up when I think about that.
Kudos,
the humanity that we saw that day from the valley. Oh my God, it was just.
And I had employees and customers that hadn't seen probably for 10 or 15 years, and they were bawling with me, like crying.
I got text messages from people I hadn't. I mean, just my phone just blew up the whole day. 2 days, 3 days later, it's like I don't even know who these people are.
Yeah. Wow. But I mean, we got to a point where we are continuing, and we've continued.
There's no doubt that it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. And
it opened a blank canvas for us, gives us the option to do things we never would have thought possible, and none of that would have been expected at the time. It seemed like the world was over. It was really just beginning.
Yeah. And dad was an awesome story, bro. Dad was really the rock right there after when the store was going on. I mean, when the store was still they were still putting out the fire in the evening or the next day. Actually, they were still putting out the fire. Dad got everybody together, and Dad was just like unwavered. Like he was like, okay, I just want to get everybody around. And I mean, our employees have been with us for 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, they're like, the girls in the office were like really upset. Like Hilda was like she's been with us for like almost 40 years. Wow. And she was just like, she couldn't stop crying. And I mean, he got everybody around, and he's like, get the firefighters that are here, get the first responders, anybody that's here. I want to have a prayer for everybody. And man, he got it. I mean, we had our loaders there, our delivery drivers, anybody who was there, like they were just helping doing whatever. And he got everybody around, and man, that was one of the most powerful prayers that Dad is. But he just said, you know what? It's gonna be okay. I mean, God has a plan, and we're gonna come back better. And he basically said a prayer just like, you know what? I'm praying. I want to pray for the first responders. I want to pray for those all those people that
their employees that were in fear of losing their jobs. Their
livelihood. They've been there forever.
So he said a real powerful message, a powerful prayer that day, and I was like, man, I mean, I was very shook up, and I mean, all my family was, but Dad was just so like, just such a rock, and such a like a like, just so unwavering, just very, just stable,
not fearful,
not phased. And I was like, man, how do I get the faith? Like, my dad's a great man of faith.
Yeah.
So he had that faith in him. And man, I was like, how do I get that kind of faith? Cause my dad does some things that you're like, how does this man think that way? You know what I mean? And he just does. He's 75, going to be 76 this year. And I was like, after that prayer and that speech he gave with like, I don't know, 50 or 60 people that were there, I was like, man, and it was just from the heart. He just spoke from the heart, and he was just like, and everybody was like, man, I mean, I looked around and there was not a single person that wasn't crying after he spoke. And I was like, what? Like, I couldn't even believe it. I was just so like moved.
I could tell your respect for your father changed enormously at that moment.
Yeah. Well,
and,
yeah.
And I think the way you felt about him, I can see it as a brother. How much more what you got from that moment and what we learned from our father since then has been intense.
Did that experience bring you all closer together? Like,
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
We're sharing an office now, so it's really close.
Oh,
Even though we're getting at each other's throats, I want to kill this guy
No,
sometimes.
we've had our huge arguments since the fire. I mean, certainly the first 2 or 3 months there was some explosive
intense.
arguments.
Yeah.
But they all were
In
part of that
comparison to what you all went through, an argument, I guess from that point moving forward is
minimal.
Yeah, and I think that
we grow. We grow from those experiences.
Sure.
They're not setbacks. They're simply we're learning and going to move
opportunity.
forward.
We take them opportunities. Yeah, to
So
grow.
I tend to be the one with a more explosive personality. I get pissed about.
I don't know why I believe you.
He goes 0 to 100, 0 to 100 real quick. Real quick.
I'll be
Me
like-
too.
I'll be like,
real
Hey, don't worry about it. It's
I'll
called
be the kind
passion.
that will say, I agree with all of
it's
you.
called passion.
I agree with all. I'll agree. I'll go with what everyone wants, but in this one instance,
As long as it's
don't
what I
care
said.
if all of you. I don't care if all of you agree and I disagree. I'm not gonna waver until you all agree with doing it this way.
Yeah.
He gets like that.
I don't get like that often, but when I do, I
like
stick
that.
to my guns.
Hey man, everybody's different, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But you know, after a tragedy like that, let me ask you guys a question: How I assume that the person that you were before that and the person that you are now is different.
You look at. I think you look at. I mean, you look at like when you go through a tragedy like that, you lose your home. We lost our. I mean, I consider it home. So it's not just a place of work, right? It's not just a place of work.
Life.
Yeah, it's our livelihood. It's our life. It's our way of doing things. It's our way of providing for our children. You know, it's my father's legacy. It's our family's legacy. So when you go through things, something like that, after Dad's speech, I was like, you know, we got to work. We got to roll up our sleeves, and we got to just get back to work. And however we can figure it out, we're gonna figure out. And if whatever. I mean, I go to the. I like to use a phrase where what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that was. I mean, it didn't kill our business, but it definitely made our business stronger. It definitely made us stronger together as a family. And I would say, would you do it all over again? I wouldn't recommend it. But if you have the willpower and you have the patience and you have the forgiveness to forgive one another when we go through difficult times, you have to have grace and you have to look at things with an open heart and an open mind. I think it's gonna help you. It's gonna help develop you into the person you could be. You know, it's gonna just help you to just be that much better and that much stronger for your family, for your friends, for your neighbors. I look at things like. You think you're in control. I mean, you think that you have it all in control. You know what? You think you're riding high. You're some big shit, whatever it is, and you're not.
Life's got a way of humbling.
Yeah, God will show you that you're not in control. You know what I mean? And I'm going to show you quick. And I'm going to take it all away in less than 24 hours.
And if there's any more vivid example of that, this was it. And I can honestly say I learned the same thing as Isaac. I now believe. Everything happens for a reason, and we are not the factor. We're not the ones making that choice. We're not the one. We're simply reacting to the consequences that we're given. We're given a certain set of circumstances, and we're responsible for dealing with it as good stewards and making responsible moral decisions with the circumstances we're given. Most of them have been blessings. But it's the one thing I keep going back to is even with our growth, with our opportunity, with like here where we're expanding, building an event center and a retail plaza. The retail plaza would not have been possible if it weren't for the fire.
Yeah.
We would have never gone that direction. It would have been something that would have just stayed. We would have built the event center, but we would have had kind of that junkie store look forever.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we would have made something else would have happened or some transition would have happened that would have. But this was
God said it's
choice.
time.
He said,
it's time.
Boom, it's time.
It's time to do it. Yeah.
And I'm gonna allow all these things to fall in place to make sure that it can be allowed to happen. Because if those things didn't fall in place,
all those little things,
all those little things, again, if we didn't have customer loyalty, retention, the accounts receivable, accounts payable, the offices, so many things had to fall into place. So many things. And you're like, there's no way. We don't have control. We had no control over some of these things,
including continued profitability into this year. And normally, a company that had experienced what we experienced last year would have been losing money this year.
You guys were still profitable.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're still
That's
profitable.
awesome.
It's still profitable. You
We've
have to adjust. You have to adapt. You have to make wise decisions. I mean, it's very important you make wise decisions. But I think at the end, we look at this tragedy as an opportunity. You don't take things for granted. I think I value relationships more. Relationships with my family, with our employees, with our team, with our neighbors. I don't want to take it for granted because we're not promised tomorrow. You know what I mean? We're not promised tomorrow. Life is short, and we just got to make the most of every opportunity, every relationship. And that's why I go back to life is too short to have some friction or to be upset with somebody else or to be upset at your neighbor or whatever it is. You got to let it go because, man, it could be all taken away in a second. And we're just here wasting time if we don't take advantage of the opportunities that God gives us and that we're given. So right now as it stands, we're building the store. We're constructing. We're doing the site work and everything's going on, and there's construction work with the road that's in front of us. And we joke about it now. We're like, you know what? There wouldn't have been a better time to do a remodel and to do a whole straight down than right now because the construction of the highway and it is crazy. But I get chills thinking about it because the store is supposed to be completed at the same time the highway is supposed to be done, which is like, how do you
plan that?
How could you have freaking planned it better? It's like, it's crazy. Like, it's honestly like, I'm like, there's no free, like we can't,
even our financing and our cost increase, you obviously know how it works where you have the interim loan. We don't have to pay principal repayments until the latter part of next year. So we'll be well open and well into good business by then. Yeah. So as our costs go back to more of a normal level, so will our business. Yeah. Our business will be prospering again. And our costs have been reduced at the time when we needed them reduced in order to be profitable while it's slower.
That's awesome.
Everything happened the way it was supposed to happen.
It's looking back, you're like, you just don't have an understanding. You're just thinking like,
if you would try to do it the way things are happening, there's no way.
There's just no way you could duplicate it. And all the time, it's all the timing. Everything is about timing. We talk about it all the time.
We had to supply a customer that we had deposited at the beginning of the pandemic. A customer deposited over $1 million with us for an apartment that was 6 months out.
Damn.
So I bought some material at the beginning of the pandemic with that money, thinking maybe I could use it for. But if we need the material and the material cost goes up, what do we do? So my dad says, buy the material.
Yeah.
Well, he delayed the project until December of this past year.
And materials low.
And the material cost dropped right when I needed it to fill the price at the price the original price had been quoted at. Yeah. What are the odds that happens?
No, dude.
Wow.
God is great.
It's crazy, bro. Honestly,
$1.5 worth of capital for a year and a half that I was able to use that he let us keep, and we didn't have to pay interest on it.
Yeah, we didn't have to pay.
So that gift that you were given, right? Because you talked about this earlier. That you now believe that everything happens for a reason.
Definitely.
How much weight does that take off your shoulders for the rest of your life, right? To minimize your stress, even by 5%, because you now believe everything happens the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, everything happens the way it's supposed to, but you still
have to make responsible decisions.
Responsible, wise decisions. You can't just do frivolous things. You can't have frivolous action.
You have to have morality in mind. Oh. When I'm also I'm a what comes around goes around kind of guy. I believe in Golden Rule, I believe, you treat others the way you wish to be treated. But I also am kind of a karma guy. And I think you've got to do the right thing if you expect things to work out for you. And you can't expect those results just because you do the right thing. Sometimes karma doesn't work that way. But I do believe bad things happen to people who do bad things.
Right.
And the best
vice
we can
versa.
do is make the
And vice
wise
versa.
decisions, make the best decisions in God's eyes, and then sit back and
let him handle the rest.
let
But
his
is,
plan work out.
yeah, Dad has always taught us to you operate with integrity, you operate with honesty, and we're not here to pull any bait and switch prices over anybody. We're not trying to do anything shady. If we owe it, we pay it. I mean, you pay your bills on time, you do the right thing, you treat people the way they want to be treated. That is just the small little things, and he's never declared it. Dad has always been like somebody that's never he's never put it down on paper. I'm going to talk to you guys about this. He just lived life, and he just said, no, you're going to do it the right way. Hey, we have a chance to make this extra margin. No, you honor the price that you quoted. You know what I mean? We go back to that job. If we took the money on that job and that job had gone up 300, 400%, we would have honored the price of the job. And we were like sweating.
We were going to lose over $1 million.
Yeah, we're because the price of material gone up. He prepaid it before the pandemic. So $1 million he prepaid. So if that job had continued for the next 6 months, we would have had to pay a enormous price increase. So we're sweating if he starts this job now, we're screwed big time. But again, the timing worked out, and we were going to honor it because we're going back and forth. Well, no, we're not going to honor that price. Screw that. And Dad's like, if you gave him that word, you're going to do it, and we're going to lose our money. We're going to lose our ass. But it's just that's the way we're going to do it.
But that's why I came up with the strategy about time frame. In order, what we should have had was a contract.
We got to fix that.
Was a contract that stipulates how much time we're willing to hold the material for.
Yeah.
And if you go outside of that, it's going to cost you money.
And we did the same thing with the builders, right? We introduced a contract that now had a price escalation clause that if it goes over a certain amount of price, then it's not fair for the builder to lose his ass.
But I do think there's opportunities there for builders on decent sized projects to job quote materials, lock down prices. Like I said, I don't expect prices to spike this year like they did last year, but we don't know what the future holds.
I give the builders because every builder's like, hey, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? I said, and I tell the builders all the time, I don't have this conversation probably 50 times. If I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be talking to you. We'd be on a Learjet somewhere in the Maldives or something like that. I would
sip it on a margarita.
Yeah, I'd be surrounded by you. Whatever, dude, I wouldn't do it.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be talking to you, bro.
I would, if we had a crystal ball, knowing what the market would be doing, and I'm like, we're not that good. It's again, a lot of things are not in our control, and we don't know a lot. We're not. I mean, we're not that smart.
Series of things that have happened to us that have even the money coming to us gave us strength that we wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen because of our own merit. That's for sure. It happened because we got lucky.
Yeah.
You could say blessed or luck.
And we had a relationship. We built relationships, and that again, building the relationship is the key.
He trusted us, and we had to reciprocate that trust. I mean, I looked at it later when we were going to get killed, and I was like, this was a horrible idea. Why do we do this?
Yeah.
And why do we keep doing this? Give him his money back. Tell him to go away.
I don't want to deal with this in my head anymore.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity in 2021 to back out and just give him his money back and say, give it to us. You pay us back when you're ready. But we never came to that. And then it just went back and forth. And then finally the pricing worked out because the market collapsed. And
and the timing was perfect. And you're like, man, we didn't lose our ass. I mean, we lost on some of the stuff went up, we were gonna lose
Overall,
millions.
We ended up breaking even, which was a great deal for him and a great deal for us too. Because
everything worked out.
A lot of stuff has continued to go up and continue to be higher. Yep. You have lumber that's collapsed and probably will grow again. I think there's some inflation that's already built into like even OSB. There's a minimum price. The floor is probably up from $6.50 cost at the mill to more like $8.
Gotcha.
So you look at the percentage, it's a pretty significant cost increase, but that still gives them the room to sell at 10, 11, and 12 and still make the customers extremely happy. I don't see our costs going back to, $30, $40 unless there's some type of massive world scare again.
Yeah.
Like war or something like that. And even that would probably make the housing market fall. So that would mean demand would be lower. So it's really going to take an explosion of business nationwide for lumber prices. And I think the United States is, in better position than people give it credit for. I think we're at a dark point and a pendulum swing point in our society. I think the world around us will set us up to where U.S. will embrace its own resources relatively soon, and when it does, it's going to be a pretty big renaissance in the United States. I think you're going to see even more growth than you've had in the recent cycles, and we could be back to 2000. Late 24, 25 into, I think, really, really good territory again.
That's awesome.
And the Valley's always insulated, so it could be good here sooner than that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, man. Does Matt's have a mission statement? Have you guys?
Yeah, we have a mission statement.
Yeah.
Kick ass.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you to, but I am interested in like what's in that mission statement that has made Matt's so successful.
He'll
right?
read it to you. It is. My dad's the one that originally wrote the mission statement.
I love that,
And that's where I'm getting
that.
to, right? Because obviously your dad has.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
we never
rock.
changed
Yeah.
it because we believe that his tradition is the tradition of the business. There's things that he used to do what I do. He was the lumber buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So he insults me as often as possible by telling me that, when I was doing it, it, and I'm like, yeah, when you were doing it, we were doing a quarter of the business we're doing now. So I
and you had to telegraph it in.
sit back and relax.
It went back on horseback. You delivered on carts and buggies. Yeah.
Chill out. Give me a break.
He's not gonna listen to this. I promise you that. So, but he would find it funny. Dad would find it funny.
It's pretty amazing to hear you guys speak of your dad so highly, though.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
He's a great guy.
But going back to because I just trying to catch some of the things that you guys are saying and doing the right thing. It always works out. As long as you do the right thing and you make the right decisions, right, morally and ethically, it always works out.
I agree.
Is that in the mission statement?
Well, I have here on the mission statement, and I wrote it alongside with Dad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, he doesn't do mission statements."
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He's not much for
But
me.
he does live by certain principles.
He
right?
lives by-
Because
he lives by
This
certain-
is very obvious. To
Yeah.
me.
So the new mission statement that I have, it's a couple sentences, pretty short. But since 1969, Mott's has been a destination for providing quality building materials at competitive prices. We exist and support positive, meaningful relationship with those around us, and we exist to pass our blessings on to others. So it's about at the end of the day, whatever blessing, paying it forward, passing it on, creating the positive, cultivating relationships around us. That's like centered. Because we want to have again the positive. Again, we go back to the positive relationships with. I want to have positive relationship with our team, with our family, with our vendors, with our suppliers, with our customers, and then obviously with our competitors. I mean, I think we have pretty good positive relationship with our even competitors, and as competition comes in, we can get like into like like where there's a battle or there's a fight, and I want to embrace competition. I'm like, I want to embrace my competitors. Hey, if you need something, let's help each other out. Whatever it is that you guys need. So again, that's part of creating that positive work environment. And if it comes from me as an owner, then I set the tone for the rest of my team. I set the tone for our family to make sure that we instill that into our team and our family and say, hey, whatever we do and say needs to be with the intent to build up and encourage, not with the intent to tear down and destroy. So that's the kind of, I have that conversation almost on a weekly basis. Everything that we do and say needs to be with the intent to encourage and build up, not with the intent to tear down and destroy.
Is that a quote that you have somewhere? Because you say it like
if you repeat
it's
it.
part,
like
it's,
you're reading
it's
it.
part of it's part of our leadership core, how we supposed to, our core values, how we lead, and I say it. But when I have conversations with employees, I had one yesterday because there's some employee drama or whatever, and I'm like, and I tell them, okay, what did we do? What was said? Was it said with the intent to encourage and build up? And they're like, well, not really. and it was like, okay, then we did it incorrectly. We need to change that. And if we can't say something nice, we don't say anything at all, right? So with the intent to encourage and build up, because we get to this point where we's like, I'm gonna tear them down, or I'm gonna tear something down, or it could be gossip, it could be whatever in the workplace, it could be anything, but we always want to come to the back to say, hey, what are we doing to encourage and build up?
So even criticism is handled in that way.
Yeah,
we're not saying we don't hold people accountable and criticize them.
Of course.
But you build them up in that criticism,
Yeah.
and you encourage them to do better, not tear them down, hold them accountable, and then
yeah. We
leave it
don't
at that.
look at it as a detriment. We look at it as an opportunity. What's the opportunity for growth? What's the opportunity to coach one of our team members, or maybe just if it's a neighbor, whatever the situation. How do we look at it as an opportunity for building up instead of tearing them down? Because as a boss, as somebody that we're in charge of 180 employees, we can get to the position where, they're beneath me, and I've seen a lot of people operate that way. I don't like the way that I don't particularly care for it. And Dad's never, ever talked down to anybody, regardless of their class status or whatever. And that is something that I think that's integral for our company, is to make sure, hey, if we don't talk down to you and we're the owners, how much less should you be talking down as somebody beneath you, as one of our managers or whatever? We want to make sure that everybody that is again building up and encouraging, and they're not tearing down.
The main tagline I hear my dad say, the thing I hear him say the most, is we need to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Do the right thing.
I keep hearing that. Yeah.
Do the right thing, and things will work out.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing. And what he means by right, he's talking right by the customer, right by what you said you were going to do, and right by God. Yeah. And when you do,
we
those
know what's
things,
right, bro. Like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what's right. You do that. You choose that path, and it always works out.
And you make a commitment to someone. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. You don't go the other direction. You don't say one thing to get someone's business and then do something different. And even so, one thing I always tell customers when I'm trying to close them, I tell them, look, you have access to owners that I can tell you, we have the option to lose money if we want to lose money to make a problem right. We don't look at the bottom line and say, is this going to be worth it? If we made a commitment to doing something, we are going to make it right regardless of the cost. So that to me gives us more power with our customers than anyone else can have, because everyone else is beholden to a corporate office somewhere,
right?
Bottom line.
Kind of decision that has to take place. The bottom line is each one of us as owners has the right to make decisions based on doing the right thing. My dad's already told us to do the right thing, and we know what that means. Like you said, we all know what's right, and we're going to do that 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm. So your pops is going back to the fire. Everything he worked for and built with his kids and his family is going up in flames, and yet he's standing there strong and
steadfast.
Yeah. But your dad's still a human being, right? He's not a Superman.
Yeah.
He bleeds just like we do. I'm sure in his internal thoughts, he's like, oh, now what, right? Does he know, and did he know at the time that his sons were gonna rise to the occasion and have his back?
Dad's not one for giving feedback or credit. He's not one to give like positive reinforcement, and I learned that a long time ago that I don't need his approval. He's not built that way, and that's part of one of his faults. His management style is not where I think we all desire feedback, and sons, we want feedback from our parents, right?
And both angles, the business angle and
just personal, and the dad angle. But dad's just not built that way. And long ago I learned that I don't need his approval. I'm just going to work hard to do what I could do, and I'm going to try to represent his values and instill them in the rest of our culture, the rest of our business. And dad is always just he'll say he's proud of us, and there's very few times that he'll go and say, hey, you guys, it's been good. You guys have been good, right? Like the numbers are okay. We're not going to go broke, right? And so it's when he says those things, very rare, okay, he's really proud of you.
But he's encouraged us. I would say he's given us more compliments over the last year
than
he typically does.
Let me ask you this though, right? Because getting back to like the whole, he's human, and the way we all require feedback, does he? How often do you
He's
guys give
forceful.
him feedback?
He's forceful. I mean, right? He's still the one holding the purse strings.
Yeah.
So
And he'll be like,
ultimately,
you know,
and when you try to push and cross that line, he'll remind you that
He'll-
it's his.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, this is my company.
Yeah. He's like,
Like, why? It says co-owner right here.
I don't know. He'll remind you. I own 52% of this company, or 51% of the company. Like I have majority. We have minor stake in the company,
Yeah.
so he'll remind you.
Yeah, we
like-
can add our 11.25% together, and it doesn't add up.
And it's so at some point you're like, okay, go ahead and run it without us, right, Dad? Like he's not involved intricately. I mean, like inside the business at all.
He
He doesn't know anything about the construction. I mean, very little. He just sees the pictures. Oh yeah, it looks good. Keep on doing what you're doing, boys.
And
It's
same
like,
thing
You're
with
doing great, little buddy.
yeah.
Same
Oh,
thing with purchasing. I buy $1 million worth of product a week, and my dad used to nitpick on invoices. He doesn't even.
He doesn't mention
even
it. He
mess
doesn't
with
mention anything. Like, yeah, we'll have meetings and meetings and meetings, and we talk and we'll have discussion, customer meetings, whatever. And he just, all right, numbers look good. We got some good checks today. I'm like, yeah, it takes a lot of hard work to get these checks coming
I've
in.
been busting my ass. That's why.
Yeah, again, a long time ago, I recognized that I don't need my dad's approval. I'm going to do it for my own satisfaction. I mean, I would do it if I got paid a lot less. I mean, we love what we do. We love being here in the Valley. We love being part of the community. And it's just, I don't need, me personally, I don't need dad's approval. And he tells us, he's like, yeah, he'll tell others, like, what do you think about your sons? Oh, my sons do great. They're great in the business. So I hear that in passing. He won't tell you directly, but he's told us. He's told his peers or guys that he still has coffee with. You know, hey, my boys have done real good. Like I'm really happy that they're all part of the company. So
He'll generally only do that in a group about all of us.
Yeah, about all of
but
us.
Not talk to any one of us individually about us doing well.
no feedback.
Yeah, yeah.
Feedback. So that's my dad though.
You know, hearing you both speak of your dad so highly is awesome. I mean, at least like I to me, my dad is my hero. You know, like my dad's he's my backbone. You know, he's my best friend. You know, if I need anything or if I have anything, man, like. You know, he's somebody that I feel very blessed to have in my life. And, you know, I just wanted to ask both of y'all if you could, you know, tell your dad something and between both of y'all, like just anything, like to let him know like how you feel about him, because you obviously love him and he's your hero, you know?
Well, for me, it would be, you know, I'm critical of my dad a lot. And because I do what he did and he's competitive and I'm competitive. We have our, you know, like I did it better than you did it better than me kind of moments.
Yeah.
And I know he knows this, but I would tell him that, you know,
Check the scoreboard,
the
old man.
wealth. No,
Air Jordan's all that.
Check the scoreboard, old man. Numbers don't lie. Check the scoreboard.
I would tell him that I wouldn't be the businessman I am or the man that I am without his guidance. And I also would say that when I grow up, I hope to be.
It's never gonna happen.
I hope to be.
For what,
I hope
bro?
to
You
be.
don't wanna do
I
that.
hope to
No, we
be
don't want
half
that.
the man my dad is.
Yeah, that's cool.
He's a great guy.
That's awesome.
There's
He really
a story that I share about my dad that I'm like, I want to have his mindset because I want to get to that level at some point, and it's something I think that everybody can kind of relate to. But it's he wanted to retire a few years back, and he bought an RV. He bought an RV to you know, he wanted to sail off into the sunset. You know, he was like, I'm gonna go do the Alaskan Highway or whatever, blah blah blah. So he spent like, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000 on an RV, a fifth wheel, right? And he did the Alaskan Highway, and he took a month off, and he came back and he was like, nah, not for me.
Yeah.
I don't.
This sucks.
He's like, yeah, he was like, you know what? It's not for me. Retirement's not for me. Like my mind always drifted back to work because he's been doing it for 50 years.
He
So
was
he's like,
still doing the purchasing while he was taking a month off.
Yeah.
so
Damn.
he was like, you know, it's not for me. Well, he left the RV at home or whatever, and he would always talk to this kind of homeless guy, and we call him Mr. D. If you know Mr. D, but he would wear trench coats, just a dirty old man. Just he would come by the store, and Mr. D's waiting in the office, and Dad would come talk to him just in the office, and he'd just keep my dad company. So Mr. D would come over for Thanksgiving. Mr. D would come over for Christmas. You know what I mean? And we'd had all our family there. And then this kind of like homeless dude, like I don't know if he lived in a trailer park or whatever, but he'd walk everywhere. I mean, Mr. D was like, I mean, it was just, he's not the most hygienic person, but my dad hey, you know what, Mr. D needs my company, and I need his company too, right?
He's a human, and he needs
Yeah.
a human.
So
He's a human.
yeah, so my dad was like, I said, Dad, what are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with the fifth wheel? And he was like, oh, well, the company decided I bought it from decided to buy it back for like, I don't know, $30,000. He bought it for 35, and he's gonna sell it back for like 30. It didn't have that much miles on it or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. So a couple weeks later, I see him hauling it off. I said, oh yeah, did you get that money for that trailer? He was like, no, you know what? I gave it to Mr. D. I said, what? I said, Mr. D, how's he gonna pay for it? He was like, no, he's not going to pay for it. I said, he said, Mr. D needed a place to live. And he said, I have more than enough. And he was like, and I didn't need the money. So I'm looking at, and I'm like, how do I
kind of angry?
Like, not angry. I'm not angry. I'm just like, not angry at all. I'm just figuring out, because my inclination is get the $30,000. You know what I mean? That's everybody's inclination. Take the money. You know what I mean? But my dad was like, you know what? I'm never gonna get the money back for it. He needed a place, a brand new freaking RV, real nice. And he's like, I gave it to Mr. RD. He needed a place to live, and I gave it to him. I said, well, what are you gonna do with how are you gonna pay? He's like, it's already paid for. He was like, I don't need the money. He was like, and he needed a place to live, so I decided to give it to him. And I was like, how do I get this mindset of this man? Like, how do I have that mindset? Because I mean, for me, I would have never been that generous to somebody that he's not family. He's nobody to us. But my dad has always said, you treat others the way you want to be treated. And man, there's so many examples of that where I'm like, how do I think like dad? And dad has always said, you know what? Yeah, you do the right thing. You honor God, and everything else is going to fall into place. And he was like, if we have enough, you give. That's why you pass along the blessings. He's like, that was a blessing for me. It's going to be a blessing for him. And
who knows? Like, who knows what happens after that, right?
So yeah, so
it's all leaving positive.
Yeah, I'll leave it positive. So my dad, for me, I like to tell dad, like, hey, how do I get that mindset? I'm always thinking like, what, like, dad thinks of what would Jesus do? I'm thinking like, what would dad do like in this situation? How would he respond? Like, I've said this story plenty of times to other people, and most people were like, yeah, I would have taken the $30,000. This guy's not going to give me nothing for it. And dad knew that he was not going to get nothing for it, but he still did it anyway. And I'm like, man, that I want to have that heart where I can just do it like openly and freely.
I think he also is one of these people that has displayed to me the ability to love your enemies. And I can tell you that that's not something that I've done.
It's not easy to do as a human being, man.
No, I mean, and my dad has, he's a very, very spiritual guy. And he really believes that, that you do things without expectation. That's the problem with karma. I tell him I'm kind of a karma guy, but karma has expectations.
Sure.
Right.
I play blackjack, and I believe that I tip well.
Yeah.
I'm a compulsive tipper, but I believe that compulsive tipping leads me to more luck.
Right.
So I'm expecting a payback, a return on that investment.
I'm giving more to win more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm giving it away so I can get more. And, it's like tithing.
Yeah.
My dad's always encouraged us to tithe. Well, you don't tithe so you can get more. If you're tithing so you can get more, then you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because even though it says you'll get more if you do, you can't. You're not supposed to do it with expectation.
With that intention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can't be a bribe.
Right.
And my dad doesn't believe in that. He believes in doing the right thing, regardless of the outcome for you.
Love is unconditional.
Exactly. And that's something that, as most of us, just don't have the ability to do. And he's displayed that ability on a grand scale.
Yeah. So
Man, this was a really cool podcast, man. I thank you guys for coming today. I didn't know what to expect, right?
We talked about a lot of different things.
We talked about a lot of different things, a lot of cool things.
But that's what it's about, man. It's just about open conversation, man. I've known. I think it's the first time I meet you, Jeremy. But I've known Isaac since I was a kid. Yeah. I actually worked at your store. Really? Yeah, when I was in high school. Oh, and really? I said it on the podcast the other day that my dad had sent me to go work there so I could learn. But I didn't learn anything. I'm sorry, Papa. Again, so you can learn. I let you down. I let you down, player. Yeah. I'm going to make you proud, I promise. But it was one of those things where, I mean, I've known Isaac since, like I said, since I was in high school. And going back to that, like I can really say that Isaac, going in there, I didn't know what to expect or anything, but you were one of the most humble people that I have ever worked for. I mean, now I thank Dad for giving me the freedom that I have with the job that I do have, which is, to me, it's not my job, it's my life. construction. But with that, dude, like, for somebody that worked for you at one point, I can honestly say that you're a very, very humble man. And I admire you for that, because a lot of people can get lost in a little bit that they have, and I think that you're very centered, and for whatever it means to you, man. Like, I hope you always have a friend with me. You can always reach out, and you're somebody that I personally love. I really do. I look up to, and there's not many people I look up to, but you're definitely one of them, man, for who you are.
I appreciate that. Cool. But again, a lot of that comes from Dad and what he's kind of instilled in us. And I mean, it's my father. My father's extremely, extremely humble. Wears the same Levi's jeans for the last 30 years. Doesn't. I mean, he has a lot of money. He makes good money. He's made good money over years, and he could do whatever he wants, and he just chooses to be the same.
He still goes to work every day.
He still goes to work every day. Still works hard. Still wakes up in the morning early. I mean, I try to make sure I emulate what I see from him, because he's given us, our family and our team, a lot of
great example,
a good foundation, a really good foundation for growth for the future. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I try to emulate.
And I think it's given him paid back dividend to him. If you look at his life and grandkids, the family he's surrounded by all the time, his life's fulfilled. He's fulfilled.
He's having a great life. Yeah.
He's fulfilled.
He's blessed.
That's why he's not. That's why when we talk about the panic, he doesn't panic, because he's already content.
He's good. Yeah.
He's content.
Right.
And you can't take that away from him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's earned it, and he's not going to lose it.
He's been content for a long time, for many years, and regardless of what he makes and how he makes it or whatever, he's been very content. And Dad has always told us, like, you know what, that the heart of it, the secret of happiness is being content with what you have, where you are, with who you're with right now. You know what I mean? Being content is a secret. I mean, and I always preach that it doesn't matter the car you drive, how much money you make, what in the bank. What matters is if you're content with who you are, and content with who you're being as a man. Even while you're improving
and you're making, let's say you have some issues in your life, you can still be content while you're making improvements. You don't have to be disappointed and dissatisfied along the way. The journey also has to be enjoyable, not just the destination. Yeah. So, and it's not perfect. The journey is always imperfect.
Right.
So is the destination.
Well, we all know what the destination is at the end of the day,
well,
right?
that destination, the ultimate destination.
The ultimate destination.
Is the one that will be perfect.
You might as well enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. Enjoy the ride.
Great, dude.
Man, I love you
Thank
guys.
you guys. That was awesome, bro. Very cool.
That was a good one.
That was badass. Cool.
Good
We're
stuff.
just going to get a picture for the thumbnail and...
Yeah, dude.